Hey, Mike, let me ask you this question before we get going. I just noticed that Melvin Gordon just got waived because he fumbled in the game again. Right. I mean, it kind of, I hate when you blame a player for, it almost is like this is the reason we lost. And when the fumble wasn't really, it didn't cost him anything. Like he recovered, the Broncos recovered it. I know he's got to protect the football, but to me, you're playing him. You're playing him. Like if you're playing him, that means you trust him.
Right. And they even picked up Latavius Murray as well. So, whose fault is it? Like you put him in the game and you know that he has this fumbling problem, this history dropping a rock right there. It's gotten toxic with Melvin out there in Denver. I think he's been pouting on the sideline too. When the cameras catch that, it's never a good look, but give me a player who doesn't pout or give me a player who's not upset with certain situations, playing time or whatever. But I think it's gotten to a point where it's toxic. And to be honest with you, Michael, I think it's signs. These are indicators. I remember with the Colts when they benched Matt Ryan, the scapegoat, and then they fired their offensive coordinator, and then lo and behold, they fired a head coach. Hackett has nowhere else to go right now. Nathaniel Hackett has nowhere else to go right now. And, speaking of accountability, I guess they're making Melvin Gordon accountable for dropping the rock that many times and waiving him. But I think the relationship is just strained far enough, and it's toxic for that kind of guy to be in the locker room right now.
By the way, they are laying 2.5 at Carolina. How about that matchup, Michael? Denver's laying 2.5. They shouldn't be laying. I'm sorry. If you want to throw a pick 'em there, that's fine, but they shouldn't be laying anything right now.
Let me say this. Like the Carolina played really good yesterday. They played good defense. Now, they couldn't move the ball. Baker was terrible. I mean, they should play Sam Darnold in this game, and if Sam Darnold protects the ball, they'll beat Denver. But Denver's going to have a hard time blocking Carolina. Carolina was good yesterday. They got Lamar on the ground a couple times. They were very athletic in their defensive front. I mean, they really didn't they turned the ball over, which made it a 13-3 game. But it really was about a 6-3 game, really, the whole way.
Here's what I want to do. Pritch, you just brought up toxic. So as a bettor, we're looking for all variables. Toxicity within a locker room, that's a team we're going to try to fade. I want you to listen to Russell Wilson when asked about Hackett's job security and then get both your reaction. Let's hear it.
Listen, I think that any time you play this game professionally, anytime there's tough days, right, there's always talk, there's always chatter. We're going to do everything we can to turn this thing around. That's all we're focused on. We can't focus on anything else as a team, as players, as coaches, as a collective organization. We're all in, and we're going to do everything we can to get this thing turned around and focus on tomorrow. Focus on, how can we get better?
He certainly didn't specifically say he had Hackett's back there, Pritch.
Yeah, Russell's good at the podium. We've all been there,
there's a career in politics here. There's no doubt. Yeah. There's a career in politics here.
You're asked a question, and you do not want to answer it the way that the media wants you to answer it. Now, behind closed doors, obviously the conversations are different, right? But they've been experimenting. I think Clint Kubiak was calling plays yesterday, and you're a head coach, but you're a play caller, and I think when you're elevated to head coach from a coordinator position, you better be really good at it. And there's been a handful of people in my career that I've witnessed and watched that's really, really good at it. These guys are not those guys, right? When you're thinking about the Bill Walshes of the world, when you're thinking about the Mike Shanahans of the world, the Mike Holmgrens of the world, it is so different than if you're Nathaniel Hackett and you're trying to strive to be those guys, play callers / head coaches. And I think a lot of these coaches today have a long way to go in that regard.
Yeah, they don't really understand. An offensive coordinator's job is to get first downs and score points. A head coach's job is to play the game to win. And there's a difference. And sometimes it's overwhelming for a play caller to do that. And I don't care that Russell said that Clint did a great job calling plays. They scored 16 points. I thought it was the classic Denver game. They start the game off, nice game plan drive, got 7 points, looked good. Next thing you know, they can't finish. That's been the case with them the whole season. They haven't been able to finish. They haven't been able to close out drives. And, the fourth quarter, they've fallen behind. Look, I don't know what they're going to do in Denver, but there's no way that everybody's looking to jump off the ship. It's pretty clear. I just read a column this morning. They want Dom Capers to take over. Has anybody watched Dom Capers be a head coach? Yeah. Has anybody watched Dom Capers be a head coach recently? this is a team that beat Jacksonville 21-7 down there. I mean, they over in London. I mean, if it wasn't for that win in London, and I think Jacksonville gave them that game, they would be on a unbelievable streak. So, look, I mean, it's just I think they've one move. They have two problems, and they're both kind of the same. Sean, it's the quarterback can't play anymore, and the head coach is in over his head, and it's unfair to the head coach because they put him in the situation. He didn't just all of a sudden show up and say it's my job.
Right. Michael, can I ask you a question in regards to the Broncos? Because there's been talk too, and I don't know if it's rumors or conjecture here, but Evero, the defensive coordinator who's done a great job with the defense this year, there's talk about why don't you go ahead and get rid of Hackett and let Evero take over, and then he'll get reps because he's a first-time head coach. He would be another first-time head coach out there in Denver and getting reps. I mean, does that make sense at all?
Well, I think the problem is if you're George Payton and you're saying, like, I got to fix this quarterback. I got to fix him. And so you're going to convince yourself he's still a good player because when you look at the numbers, you say, well, he's still playing good, right? What's he have rushing this year? I mean, Russell's got 129 yards rushing so far this year. His long run is 18 yards. So how am I going to fix, if I hire the defensive coordinator, how do I fix the quarterback?
Right.
And you've got to sit there and say to yourself, is this players, coaching, or scheme? Well, when you throw for 7 touchdown passes in 10 games, it's a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Jeff Saturday can coach the Colts and the Broncos.
I think he probably can handle it. Yeah, I think he could. I'm sure he could. I think it's a bigger issue. I think it's a bigger issue because I agree that the young kid on the Broncos, they've done a great job. I mean, the Broncos have only given up 63 points in the second half.
Yeah.
The problem is they've only scored 54. Think about it. They've only scored 54 points in the second half, the Broncos. They scored 54 in the second quarter.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds. Listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN's sports betting podcasts.